So, good evening, everyone, once again. It's great to be here. I am Esther, a technical product manager at Cowrywise. Hi, Jolapo. Thanks for joining. Even though I'm not sure if you met physically, but I mean, it's great to see you on the call. And every other person that has joined, just for us to be able to run through very quickly. I see we're already like 15 minutes into the call. So, I'll just go through, but at the end of today's session, this is what I'm looking that we'll be able to touch on. So we'll look at product management. I believe that a number of us on this call are product managers, and that's what I've been told. A number of us joining this call are either like early stage product managers or, already like established product managers. So we'll just touch very briefly on product management, more like I'll hear from you what you think product management is. Then we'll look at the different PM buckets, PM in product management, right? Then we look at technical product management, and then we'll discuss. So this is what I'm hoping that we'll be able to like touch on at the end of this session. So yes, so let's just get into it. So I am Esther, I've been introduced. I will just run through my career journey so far, and this is because I want to tie to technical product management as we go through. I studied computer engineering and started working first as a software developer, .NET stack, so writing backend work, so web APIs, web applications, and the likes for a number of years. However, there's a tie between where you have on like my right here, where I have the timeline journey and the highlighted strong point. So I was working as a software developer, so I had the technical depth or know-how. However, I also loved other things. At the time, the developers do not like, at least many developers that I had worked with. So I like to document, I like to organize, which is what I tie to event coordination skills. I also had opportunity to have led a number of things. So beyond like my technical depth, I also had like these other skills that I had. And as I navigated my career in software development, as I went through the year 2015 to 2018, I began to see that, look, I like to code, but beyond coding, I want to be able to interface with people more. I want to be able to also understand the business better. So I would like to use tech to solve business needs. So coding is doing it, but with coding, I'm just like seated on my desk. So in 2018, I will start working with the bank, and I was still a developer. But I started speaking to my managers. I started talking to my bosses to say, see, I want to take on more business-related roles in tech, but I don't want to lose my technical edge. At the time, I wasn't really clear what technical product management was and all. So I would go on to do like a business analysis training. I would get certified to have a CCDA, which is a certificate of competency in business analysis. And then it would happen that the opportunity will come up in my organization, and then I will become like our first technical PM in our API development journey. So that's how I actually navigated into technical product management. Started as a software developer, and then I took some courses, trainings, also trainings in product management. It is deeper than this, but I'm just going to run through, looking at the fact that I had other skills. So before I transitioned fully, I already started doing some of this work. So my team in 2018, between 2018 and 2020, we were purely developers. We were a team of about 10 to 12 developers, the average of 2 female. And out of those 10 to 12 developers, there were about 2 of us that liked to do the business analysis work of the team, project management work of the team. So even though we're developers, we're also doing things like going to our head office to take requirements for what we're to build, translating this into like requirement documents, doing documentations for the APIs we had done. So I began to like take on like a business analyst or PM role in that situation, but I was still working as a developer. But when we had a restructure, we began to have like more product focused teams, and then I'll be able to get the opportunity to work as a technical PM. And yeah, it navigated that way. I moved on from there, went to another company, which was First Bank, and I worked as a product owner, which was in the actual sense a technical product manager. And then before I moved to Cowrywise this year, I would say that Cowrywise, I am more of a generalist product manager than a technical product manager. And as I go on in the session for today, I'll just try as much as possible to explain why. But basically, what I want to pick out of this is to say that for me, I have an experience or a background in like core tech. So building web application, databases, you know, cloud, a bit of cloud development with some of my fortes and what I was doing before I then moved on to come into product management. And then I would work with the developers to like list out what they were to do. We'll break down their tasks, we'll build them into user stories, and you know, work with testers to come together to have the product we want to deliver. So this is like a short navigation of how I've come in tech. So briefly, so that I can also understand the room better, I would just like to hear from you. What are your backgrounds in product management? Also, if you're like early stage product manager, put in the chat section. If you are like what's it now? If you are like already established in tech, you can put it in the chat section. Let me know. In product management, let me know what area of product management you're like established in, or if you're just like coming in, you're just curious. I'd like to just have an understanding of the people in the room. Could you just kindly put that in the chat section so I'll just see very quickly. So you can say I'm a technical product manager, I am a product manager, I am a product owner, I am a growth product manager. I'm new to product management. Thank you, Godswill Udo. So new, so more like curious as to what the options are. Okay. Any other person? We're like setting the room, so I'm expecting more responses. Mid-stage product manager. Thank you, Dollar, for. I'm new to PM Glory. Entry level product manager. That will be Perpetual. Thank you. Who else? So I'll get like 5 and I'll be able to say, okay, 1 out of 5. So if you just give me that. Also, product data analyst, Damilola. Mid-stage, Ifyok. Damilare. Hi, Damilare, former colleague. Yeah, mid-level PM. Awesome. Awesome. So we have a mix of like new and mid-stage product managers. I like this because I also like the software project manager, Ayobola. Awesome. Stewart is a product owner. Kelvin has experience in program management, but product management is new to them. Amazing, amazing. Thank you. A few people in the room. So we have like a blend of like new and like, okay, people already in it. So cool. So what is product management? Again, this is just very shortly, let me know. This is not why I'm here. I'm not here to teach product management, just want to talk about technical product management. But I mean, what does it mean to you? Can you just help me put it in the chat section very briefly? Just what does it mean to you? Especially for those who are already like, well, from the two perspectives, you're new into product management, what does it mean to you? And you have some experience, you're mid-level, what does it mean to you? I'm expecting your responses. Okay, are we still thinking about it, or do you want us to come back to it? I need us to go through the journey. So if you could just tell me, what does it mean? Some people would say that you are the CEO of the product. Well, some people would say that you're chief everything officer. Chasing the engineers while being chased by the CEO. No lies detected. Thank you, Dolapo. Yeah. I mean, if you've not chased the engineers in your life in product management, I don't know. Okay, who else wants to tell us from their perspective, what you've learned or heard about product management, what you've done in product management? What does it mean to you? I mean, it doesn't have to be textbook definition. It just has to be what you think it is. Any other person want to go before we continue? Product management is the act of building product from the inception to withdrawal or retirement stage. Awesome. Thank you, Adeyemi. Yeah, so I mean, for certain product managers, I've seen that sometimes you may not work in okay, let me get into it. Let me not rush ahead of myself. But typically, you would see that several product managers will work in different areas of the product life cycle, depending on your organization and maybe your product you're working on. But yes, you actually will go through that product life cycle. Awesome. So Kelvin says that it is building product that people love to use. Okay, I mean, thank you all for responding to my question, and we will just like continue from here. So thank you. There's so many definitions of product management. Normally they will tell you that it is that intersection between the business, tech, and the customer. Sometimes they will include UX, and they say, oh, we are that sweet spot in the middle, right? But I mean, product management has evolved and it's still evolving. I feel like it's getting to, a few years back, not a lot of persons knew about product management, and but then there was that wave of getting to tech, and then there was that thing where people were saying, oh, if you just want to get into tech, just go do products. They didn't know. Right? But I mean, it is a process of strategically directing your products through that product life cycle, whether it is ideation, delivery, pushing to the market, and whether you're retiring it, and the idea is you want to build a product, meet your users, also your business objective. There has to be that balance somewhere, because if your user likes it but your CEO is not on the same side as you, well, you know how that works, right? Yeah. And I would say that again, why I put this second part here is that your expertise in product management is sometimes that dependent is asterisk, because it may not be all the case, but it's sometimes dependent on which part of the circle. So looking at this wheel, the one that has product management in the middle and has that blue, brown. So you see that as a product manager, you're sitting in the middle of a number of things, such as leadership, being that product voice, being the product ambassador, doing product development work, then talking to marketing, sales. I mean, and sometimes in some organizations, like some of the organizations I've worked, I didn't have to interface with some of these persons directly, right? So for instance, when I was at FCMB, I was working more with internal stakeholders and certain persons in the industry, but there were like communication channels. Again, when you're working with certain big organizations, the way it works may differ, right? So your expertise in product management is sometimes dependent on what part of the product circle, of this circle, right, that Gartner.com provided, that you're focused on, and maybe your industry also. So again, because we're here for technical product management, I'll just run through. But before I go into it, I just wanted to show this. If I had time out, I wanted us to discuss, but I mean, product management is getting to that point where we're beginning to see a lot more structured definitions of what product managers are. And sometimes if you're not clear as to what area of product management you're in, you may just feel, many times there's that burnout that we feel, because we're trying to navigate where we are. So I said something at the beginning that I am a technical product manager, and I'll tell you why. But I've worked as a technical PM, and I think currently I am working more as a generalist PM. So there are several product management areas. These are like 4. Some persons divide it into like 6. I mean, different definitions, but I'm picking 4 because I feel like out of these 4, you can then draw out the other areas of product management. So there's the generalist PM, who basically is that person that does everything. So if you think of a startup, if you think of certain like new venture businesses, this person is doing product discovery, research. They are working on product delivery to ensure that we're pushing out the product. They're also working with the growth team, and sometimes they do not even have a growth team, so they're also working on product, the market adoption of this product. They're like that all-rounded person, and this kind of person is easy to burn out if you do not have like maybe certain other product managers working with you, and then you can sometimes go back and then do like a review and a sync across the different products. So I'll just run through, trying to look at the time. So yeah, this person is like that person that runs through every, and some other product managers also do this, but there's a part where their strength is like focused on, but this person has to be good at strategy. So you have, sometimes you already have the product vision, but you're coming up with the strategy for achieving that vision. Sometimes there's even the strategy, but you're working on implementation, and then go to market. But this person needs to know how to work with the different stakeholders across these areas of the product life cycle to deliver. And then you have the growth. Then you have the growth. Okay, I'm echoing. Can you hear me? Just to check.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so you then have the growth PM. Again, this will be seen more in like bigger organizations where you're beginning, they already have like certain products that are even established, like the established product, but they're now looking across their products. What's the word? Let me use product repository. The right word isn't coming to me, but like that, your product, the different product buckets and offerings they have, and they're having like a growth PM who is sitting to say, based off on what we have, how are we going to push? So we are now looking to drive acquisition, retention, right? We want to grow our AUM or our revenue for these products that we have. So your growth PM is that, and for many businesses, these guys are like the ones that are now helping you to bring money home for what you built. So there are people who are like your delivery PMs or product owners. They've built. Now the product is out in the market, right? But how do we ensure we're growing? So they are monitoring. This person to maybe build feature PRDs on how to improve that product and all of that. That's why you see these people sit more. Then you have domain PMs, who are people who you know, have like deep domain knowledge in like their area of work, so maybe their industry. So you would see like payments, e-commerce, even hardware, right? It's these people that have like this depth of knowledge where they now sit as your SMEs on it, and then they're not just SMEs, they're now product managers. So they're like domain PMs. Sometimes they can be technical PMs, and some other times they may not even be technical PMs, depending on the industry. It's just that they gain that deep level of knowledge about the product, and then they can be the person that when stakeholders want to ask questions, they are the ones there. When they need to talk to like the product support teams, they're the ones doing all of that. Sometimes this is achieved through, you know, years of experience, and sometimes also achieved through intentional career growth in a particular area. The downside to this is that it can sometimes be limiting, because you're then good in one particular area, and then when you maybe switch to another area or move to another area, you may not be able to have as much depth and experience there. So that can be a downside. Then you have the technical PM, who is more of someone who has a technical background, right? And they can work on either internal or external products, right? So what this will require is someone who has a deep technical understanding of the tech. So, right, you may not need to write codes, but you would need to understand things like your programming jargons. You want to know what, when the developers are talking about certain things, you're not just in the dark, but you're able to like speak to them in their language. So that's a technical PM. I'll maybe go into this, but some organizations, you will not see these different categories of PMs. You will just see one type, right? But as the organization grow, they begin to see a need to like break out their PM team into having these specialties, so that they can, you know, grow deeper. You know, at the point you're trying to gain that breadth coverage, but at some point you now need to dig deeper, and then you need to begin to have PMs that sit in these different buckets. So for you who may be like, you're like asking yourself, where do I sit currently? You can analyze, and then you can also look at the I'll share resources that I can read, because I mean I can't go through everything, but you can also look at the core strength that these areas need and see, okay, what area of PM am I looking to grow myself into? Yes, okay, so that's that about the different PM areas. This also speaks to the different PM areas. So in-house product manager is like that generalist, you know all these things. I would not dwell too much on this. Then the product owner, there's always a discussion between who is a product owner, who is a product manager. I'm always saying things like, well, it depends on your industry, it depends on your organization. But sometimes I feel like a product owner is more like a technical product manager. Again, depends on where you are. But you are more focused on the delivery arm of the work. So many times the product owner will be the one they'll work with maybe a lead product manager to come up with like the product vision, or rather they'll get the product vision and then build strategy and, you know, work on the roadmap and then work with the team that will deliver. right? So yeah, so these are some of the skills set that this person would need. And then you have the technical product manager. You will see that the difference between this technical product manager and this in-house or generalist product manager is the development skills, right? So let me show you what I'm talking about here. You'll see that this person has development or technology skills as part of what they have, but that in-house generalist doesn't necessarily need to have like that depth of knowledge in it. So yeah, if you have questions, please just note them, and I think we'll get to them in a bit. So yes, this technical PM. This is one of the very popular questions that they ask product managers. People ask for product managers. Do I need to be technical? Do I need to know how to write codes? Do I need to know how to, build databases? Do I need to know how to do these things before I can be a PM? So I'm going to ask the house. This is a question. Do you think that a person needs to know how to write codes before they can be a technical PM? And so just yes or no very quickly. This is for being a general PM now. Yes or no answers? No, thank you, Dollar Boy. Yes, I'm sorry, no. Rather, you do not need to actually know how to write codes. Your work as a PM, right, is you have, so it's like, let me look at the sports. It's like a relay race, right, in some sense. And your goal is to, you've been given a baton, right? You need to pass it on to the next person. That's the goal. But for some persons, they will collect it and then they will not be sure how to navigate the, different lanes that they have on the race track. But some other persons already know how to, and then there may be another level of, depth some persons have gained that will help them to do certain things. But the goal is the goal. You want to deliver. So as a product manager, you have certain products that we put in your care to deliver. Do you need to learn how to write the code? No. But would you need at some point technical expertise so that you can deliver better? Yes. Now your technical expertise may be in your field, but it's something you can grow in, learn as you go. So you do not need to write code. But to be a technical product manager, do you need depth? Yes. And a memory that comes to mind is I was interviewing for a role some time ago at technical PM at some organizations. And even with I felt like it was an overkill those guys were going for, but even with my level of experience with development and all, the questions they were asking me was more of questions that, we're looking at technical PM as someone who would be like an engineering, quote and unquote, manager to some extent. I mean, you would have the software development team lead, but you would be that person that, you understand tech. So when you're writing your user stories, for instance, you're not writing from a particular generalist. You're breaking it down, telling them, oh, these are what the database field should be. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? But if you are just a generalist, you may not be able to do that. So do you need technical depth? Yes. Can this technical depth be learned? By all means. I mean, that's why we're here today, to know that the technical depth that is needed for a technical product management can be learned. So I just showed this also this what's it, Venn diagram that shows like the midpoint between a PM and a TPM. A PM being a product manager and TPM being a technical product manager. You will see that at the core of who they are, there's strategy, there's ideation, there's road mapping, there's that features that you're building, there's go-to-market. But in your individual strength, you now have like the differentiating factors. So let me give another example. So when I was at the bank, a product manager is more of a business product manager. So when they call someone a product manager, that person is not even involved in road mapping. The person is involved more in customer interaction, more in user research, more in engagement with the customers, whilst the product owner is the delivery person. So they get the feedback, then they use that to iterate and improve on the product, right? So It may differ based on where you are, but having an understanding of what these different options are just helps you know, okay, this is where I am, this is where I need to be. Do I even need to be this person? Some people will say, oh, who hands more, a TPM or a PM? Depends on your organization. If your organization is an organization that is focused on that the tech is a very core part of what they do, then they will value your place as a TPM and they may want to pay you more. And if your organization is, you know, that generally, so for instance, if you're working in maybe a new venture business, they will need you to have like an all-rounder knowledge beyond just the tech. They will need you to understand the finance. They will need you to understand the legal, right? They will need you to understand even the sales, sometimes part of what you're doing. So you then need to know that based on where I am, I need to then be able to upskill myself. I think that's one key thing. And like I put it in my introduction, learnability is a very great one for me. I say that I feel like that's like one of my biggest strengths, right? I learn very fast. So if you have that skill, no matter what area of pain you find yourself, you'll be able to navigate. Okay, so who is a TPM? I mean, there's a definition on your screen already. I'll just touch on, I've touched on the definition, I think, through my session already. So a TPM is someone who basically has that technical background and most times is focused on the technical aspect of the product. So you manage the technical delivery. So even when you're working, so because you understand the tech, when you're interfacing with the engineers, it's easier to communicate in their language, right? This will even be great if you're working in a place where the tech stack you're experienced in is the tech stack of your organization. So if you're someone who's working in an environment where you use like Microsoft, so maybe the .NET world, Microsoft Azure, I mean, you already have knowledge in this. Working with your engineers is very easy. If you're someone who is maybe the Google people, you have Google Cloud, or you're the Amazon people and you do Python, you know, when you are in that kind of space, you're not just writing a story, but you're also thinking from a technical POV to say, okay, this is what we're saying, does it make sense, does it not make sense? You don't need to wait and get back to sometimes your stakeholders, your execs. You can say, oh, from a technical perspective, you need to look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this, right? Yeah. So you're responsible for aligning engineering teams, and sometimes based on your organization, you work with the product managers and business managers to achieve business goals. Of course, you will need a mix of management. That's why in some organizations, your technical product managers can also almost work as an engineering lead sometimes. Yeah. So, and again, this last part here where it says emerges when an organization needs someone with in-depth product and technical knowledge is important. Like I said, not every organization will need a TPM, but as I've observed, right, with the way certain organizations, if you are in a fintech or ed tech or all these new tech businesses, you most likely would see a lot of TPM openings coming up because they need people who beyond the business understand the tech. And I feel like that's a sweet spot in the middle, to know the business and to know the tech. It's like you can tilt, you know, you can decide to maybe tilt more to your tech strength or tilt more to the business, and then you can still play on both sides. It's a very sweet place to be. And yes, we'll just see how to become that person. How do we become this person? You will see that I noted 3 ways. You have the career TPM, the accidental TPM, and then the transition TPM. What do I mean by this? So I'll start with the transition TPM. I'm the transition TPM in this situation because I transitioned from software development to product management or technical product management. So when you have TPM, it could also be your PM. I mean, these are like the typical ways people get into product management, either by transitioning, maybe you've been in HR and then you are like, see, this product management is a thing that is calling my attention. I feel like my strength can play here. Or maybe you've been in health and then you're saying, look, I want to come into this space. So you transition. Some persons stumble their way into it. It's not like an intentional transitioning journey. It's more like, or they were working somewhere and then maybe you're working as a product designer. There's someone I know like that who was working as a product designer, but because certain things came up, they pushed the person to become the product manager or product owner on that role. So they have to learn on the job, right? And they become on that journey. Or maybe you're working in certain role, and an opening just came up and they just put you in it. So accidentally you step into it, and then sometimes you don't even know that what you're doing is product management, and then but then you realize over the time that wait, what I've been doing, maybe you're a software developer, but you've been handling like the whole product development cycle rather. I mean, in your job, and then realize, look, this is what I've been doing. I think I can actually play fully in this area. Then you find your way into it. That's the accidental person. Then there are people who are starting out their careers, leaving school, and they're saying, look, this is the path I want to just go into. They're, starting out as associates, maybe interns associate, depending on their position, and then growing into that role. So you have the career person. So this, again, I'm explaining because you can begin to see how, if it's something you're looking to do, how you can also go into it, right? You can most likely transition because you're already aware. And how can you transition? So for me, it was more of taking courses. I already knew the tech, but I needed to learn the technicalities of business. So I took a training in business analysis, took trainings in product management, right? And got certified in certain cases just to boost my confidence level and also show that, look, I am ready to take on this new role. For you to be taking, like, there's several product standard product organizations that you can take product educations from right now, if that's what's very important to you. There are organizations like Innova Lab too that you can learn your product management from. If you want to come into that career, for those who are new to it, you can learn what product management is and navigate your way into the area of product management that you feel like your strength is more in. So if you're someone who feels like you can be good with growth, marketing, you can go into growth product management. But if you know that, look, I have this technical background, or I'm looking to grow in this technical background area, I want to be a technical PM, why not? You can go into it. So what do you need to do? Yeah, just a number of things. Be willing to learn. That learnability is very key in this journey. Be willing to learn. Then if you're already working as a product manager and you're looking to like transition to that technical PM role, I'll say start building good relationship with your engineers. Why? So that you can begin to understand what's going on in your environment, start where you are. So ask them, oh, what programming languages are you coding in? Oh, what tools? So there are people who actually begin to learn. I would say it's time to be willing to learn. Take courses so that teaches you introduction to tech jargon, right? Things like what are databases, what are APIs, right? What is deployment? Your developer will tell you, look, I have pushed, but it is hanging. Where is it hanging? Is it on the rope? Is it in the cloud? So if you understand some of this technical jargon, they won't be able to, in that word, bobo you. In that sense, rather, bobo you would know what they're talking about. And you will notice that sometimes the generalist PMs will also know these things, but they will not be able to function in certain depths because they've not gone deeper to begin to learn things maybe around infrastructure, around deployment, around, deeper things that the developers will do. So if you want to also, maybe you're already a generalist who knows, like, you've worked in the tech, but you now want to go deeper, you can say, but the question I'll say is, why do you want to go deeper? But I'll get to that. So don't be afraid to ask questions. By all means, ask questions. That's why I work as product manager. You always ask why. You want to know, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? How is it align with what we're doing? How does it align with the vision? And all of that. I mean, to learn technical jargons, then build network, with your fellow engineers. See me saying fellow engineers. With your fellow product managers, build join network so that you can also learn. Sometimes you would not know certain things that you would not know that, oh, this could have been done this way, but when you talk to a fellow product manager, they would advise you to say, oh, you could have done this, you could have done that. So this is like, how you can. What are the skills you need? The the key difference again, like I talked about earlier, is that technical depth, right? That development and technologies depth. So the difference between like your typical PM and your TPM is that depth of knowledge. Sometimes it comes from your background in tech. For someone like me, for some people, is in their learnings, in choosing to either take courses that will explain to them what the tech is, or go for certifications and the like. So the key one for me is the product management and product programming knowledge, and then some bit of the user interface and user experience design. Some product managers will may not do, so if you are a technical PM, sometimes they won't even do designs in terms of Figma and the like. So when I was, for instance, working as an API product manager, I wasn't doing Figma. What I would do more would be to work, define our API, have our API definitions, and come up with all of these things. So you need to know these things, identify what your interest is, and then begin to gain like depth. Yes. Okay. So yeah. Is this what everybody should do? The way people just like want to jump on the trend or jump on the next good thing because that's what is popular. Again, know your why. Why do you want to jump on it? What's your career aspiration? This is like the very critical part. What do you want? How are you looking at your career in the next few years? Do you think you would need to be in a place where you'll be leading an engineering team, or you'll be working in a space that has very deep, has this technical depth that you're not yet there? Okay, if that's it, then you know that, okay, this is what I need to do. What are the gaps between where you are and where you're going to? Right, you need to identify those gaps. Okay, is it that you even understand databases but you do not understand APIs, or you do not understand certain things in your engineering stack that you need to know? You need to know what these gaps are and then start learning, right? Then what is the career need? So is it that you're in an organization where, for instance, you're working with a lot of engineers and you're coming from a background with no tech at all? You know that see, I need to work on myself. I need to start learning the lingo of these guys, right? So you know that this is what I need to start doing now, right? There are different pros and cons as identified here. I mean, that part of being able to speak the engineering language and also speak business language. So you speak to your execs, your stakeholders, the language they understand, business talk. This is the value my product is bringing. But when you go to your engineers, you're speaking to them in their language, right? You're not just going to speak the big jargon of the business. You're speaking the technical jargon to them. Being in that middle is such a sweet place to be, right? You also understand tech trends, and you can know how this would impact your product, how it will impact your roadmap, and you can, for instance, when they are changing certain technologies, you say, oh, we need to start looking at this. But if you do not have that insight, your product will suffer in the long run, right? Then you also have that subject matter expert view. It just gives you that edge. It's just like if you're a domain PM, so it gives you a certain form of edge. But you have to be careful so that you also don't now lose out on that larger perspective that a PM needs, right? So what are the cons? Sometimes you really need this person in a very large organization, like I said earlier. Sometimes you become too specialized, and then it can just be an extension of the development team. So yes, these are like certain pros and cons of being a TPM, right? But you need to know what your why is, analyze the gap, and then you can move forward. So as I wrap up today, what's next for you? We've gone through the PM journey, who a PM is, what are the different areas of PM, and then looking at the TPM. So now, what do you need to do? Like I said already, assess where you are. Where are you in your career journey? What are your aspirations, right? And then it may take you a while to define, do that gap analysis of where you are and where you're going to, what's the difference, right? You may need to also like do further studies to also understand better. That's when you've identified where the gaps are, start learning. Learning could mean taking a course, it could mean going for education, it could mean listening to podcasts, it could mean reading a book or reading certain books, right? It could also now mean that you need to take up new responsibilities at work. You need to speak up to say, look, I've been doing generalist, but I think I want to gain depth. So maybe let me work on this more technical product feature we are doing. So you can talk to your managers this way, or you can also look out for like more technical side roles or side projects to work on. Now, so maybe you can say, okay, I want to build an API, and I mean there are many platforms where you can even easily build an API today. So take up these new responsibilities for yourself, make mistakes but fail forward, and then you can become like the best product manager or technical product manager that there is. And it's a learning curve, so we keep learning and getting better on this journey. There are resources I have here. Maybe I'll just share the link in the chat so that you can access them. But there are also newsletters you can subscribe to, like learning newsletter, the pragmatic newsletter. Is that correct? I think so. Product school. Then I also like to listen to product thinking podcasts. I mean, these are like even generalist podcasts, but like these are resources that may help you. I probably will just share this link with Blessing so she can share with everybody. Yeah. So these are resources that you can use. And yeah, I'll take questions. I've just shortly left 5 minutes to 7 o'clock. So
all right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for breaking everything down. And I like the fact that we're just going stepwisely. It just made lots of sense. Thank you so much. So guys, you have questions for Esther before we call it a night? So let's raise our hands if we have questions for Esther, and I would just call your names, right? So before we start taking questions, you can just keep raising your hands, right? You can always I always say this, and it's something Banji also always capitalize on, that whenever we get into sessions with product managers, product people, we should share those things that we have learned. And this is like an hour of learning, right? And Esther has she has dished out a whole lot of value, so much value. You will notice that she's just going very carefully just for us to have a grab of what she's saying. And to be honest, I've learned a whole lot. So in order for other people to learn, other people who are not opportune to be in this meeting, you can just pick out those things that you learned and put it on your social media, tag InnovaLab, tag Esther on our social media, and you don't know who would see it and learn from it, and you don't know who will see it and be like, oh, Abisola is the product manager. Oh wow, okay. Abisola identifies with InnovaLab. Okay, great. Okay, you never can just tell. So it's just important. It's not important, but it's just going to help you, put you out there, and help other people as well. So let's go ahead to InnovaLab, to our social media. Everyone go to your social media, write things that you've learned in this meeting, and tag InnovaLab, tag Esther, and yes, InnovaLab on LinkedIn, InnovaLab NG on, yes, Esther has her social media handles on. Let's get social. Our Twitter is at Estitude. Our LinkedIn is Omikunle Esther, and our blog is estitudeplace.com. So guys, you can just tag. So we'll just take the questions, right? Let's have Deborah Ade or Ogolade. Hi Deborah, please go ahead with your question. Good evening.
Good evening. All right, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. There's something I actually want to be clarified on. Yeah, as regard product owner and product management. I see a lot of similar correlation between the both of them. For me, what I know product owner to be is like an intermediary between the developer and the stakeholder. So with all I've learned today, with all I've spoken today, I see similar correlation. Is there any difference between PO and PM? Not.
Thank you.
I don't have a question.
Hello?
Yeah, I said I don't know if you get my question.
So okay, let me just rephrase to be sure that I got it. So your question is to confirm if there's like a difference between a PO and a PM, a product owner and a product manager.
Yes.
Okay. Again, that would be more of, like I explained earlier, it would be more, I think I like to put it this way. And again, for my mid-level product managers, I'd like to get your thoughts in the comment section around this question. But from my point of view, I've worked as a product owner and I've worked as a product manager. I would say it's dependent on the organization. But from a general point of view, a product owner is more focused on delivery in many times, right? There truly you would do conceptualizations because you your work, but sometimes the vision is already set. So you may not be doing a lot of ideation that the product manager may do. You may be focused more on strategy, so you're not visioning. You may be focused more on strategy and delivery, right? And sometimes your work may be the work of a technical product manager, such that you are basically taking the definition of what is to be done and translating it to your engineers for what they are to build. What you are then doing is to verify that what the engineers have built is the same as what the business said they want, right? So the main difference between that product manager and product owner is really like, one is more focused on delivery. So I'm ensuring that, and that's the PO. And the product manager may then be more focused on the whole scope of work. So from the whole ideation to delivery to even market launch. As a product owner, I wasn't really focused on market launch. I would hand over to the team that would then handle and maybe just check in and get feedback once a while. But as a product manager, I'm working with the team to say, look, this is what I'm thinking. This is the vision we have. How are you marketing this and ensure that it aligns with what we're looking to deliver to the user, right? How are you communicating this to the user? So that's, from my point of view, what I think the difference is. And it can see varying thoughts, actually. When you research on it, you see varying thoughts. It's just about how it is defined. When I was working at FCND, our product manager was even more of head of product team, but they called him a product manager. He was the one leading all the product owners on the team, but his role title and time, it was product manager. The way the business analysis body of knowledge defines a business analyst, they will tell you that anybody can be a business analyst if what you are doing at that point is business analysis work. So basically, if what you're doing at a point is product manager work, but you are titled a product owner, that means you're still a product manager. That's my thoughts on it. I hope it helps.
Yeah. What I just want to from what you just said now, what I see is that a PO is involved, like you mentioned, a PM rather is involved with the work of a PO and actually getting feedback from the user.